Hi, I'm not sure, I'm not quite sure how I'm still functioning, if I'm honest. I know it's just in my programming, but it's not quite believable within me experiencing my life to see me continuing in any way. Things have become very, very challenging, and it's almost like I'm fully aware that in all the challenges I'm experiencing now, it's still going to get harder. And I'm just trying to comprehend a spiritual force that can allow life to happen in this way. And if it allows it to happen in this way, it's just, I wasn't expecting to speak about this, but the whole reason I'm making the video is just to snap out of my life for a few minutes so that I can focus, recenter on something, so that when I get up I can continue in a far better fashion. So it doesn't really matter what I speak about right now, but it's absolutely true. It's like I'm questioning the spiritual force and that governs life for everybody, and that can allow me as a human being to experience these extremes of bringing into question every element of life. And none of it compares at all to what I've seen on TV in my life. I'm a very closed off person. I haven't been around the world. I haven't travelled. I've not seen much suffering in my life other than what comes on a box. That I trust other individuals to put correct and accurate information across on that screen. And all I know is that what I experience in my life, that I'm justified to constantly question what effing spiritual force that considers themselves to be of any benevolence, of any basis in love, can allow my life to continue as it is. And my life is incomparable to what I've seen on TV. And never did it occur to me to question these people, what spiritual force allows the world to continue? What spiritual force has allowed this suffering to take place? Because I think when I saw them on TV, my life was growing up here in London, one of the top cities in the world, with the challenges that come along with growing up in London. And however hard they are, they're not going to be a mark a scratch on what I've seen that's taken place in the world since I've been alive, and still taking place today. And because I can't expand my mind enough to contemplate the suffering that's gone on on this planet, because how can you do that? I'm living in a bubble. I've grown up in London. What happens when we can't work? We get benefits. Yes, they're not perfect, but you might find it hard for 6 months if things don't go well with paperwork, and you might have to scavenge for food for 6 months. In a city like London, with a sickness like London, where we dispose of so much good food, if you're going to be hungry anywhere in the world, you want to be in London. You want to be somewhere like London, New York, somewhere where the people are sick, where the business are sick, and good produce is disposed of on an unfathomable level. You want to be somewhere in London, like London. How can I comprehend the suffering that I've seen on TV growing up, when I've got the worst case scenario? I've got to go and look in bins to find good quality food to live. That's the worst case scenario, really. With the society, with the system as it is. Yeah, I'll have to possibly be homeless again, with the abundance that's there on the streets, that's wasted every day. With the people, again, so fucking ill in themselves that they have expendable income that they can contemplate to give money to a homeless person. I've not been able to do that for a long time. But homeless people, from what I see on the box, again, are looked after in London. How can I comprehend, how can my mind begin to contemplate the suffering, literal suffering people are living on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, their whole lives basis? Famine like nothing I can ever contemplate. Distortion to physical bodies as a result of wars, chemical wars that have been fought, and living with, life-changing, life-altering diseases and harm to their bodies as a result of wars that they've been innocent in. How can I contemplate that? How can I contemplate watching the news and seeing a person on TV that's just been through a war, bloodied, not able to move, lying there in a different country all alone? How can I begin to comprehend their suffering, man? And yet I'm running round like a lunatic here, trying to get my little bubble in order, because I need to do that to survive. And we've got people queuing up left, right and centre for vaccines because their lives have been on shutdown because of the past few years, because of the economy, the way we live. Society isn't no longer in nature, man. nature puts out disease when we're not living alongside it. You don't need to be a genius. But because we're so conditioned to our suffering, our own sufferings, and it's justified, and our own sufferings are dependent upon society, we will queue up and we will inject ourselves with chemicals that we cannot even comprehend how they work, if they're going to do us any good. And we trust in a sick society because our own suffering of being locked at home for a year, even if it went on for another year, 2 years, it's our own suffering and it's justified, it's suffering. And we would queue there to have an injection that could alter our lives, and it does, man. The AstraZeneca vaccine, fucking hell, man. The disease from chimpanzees that they're fucking injecting us with the cure added to that genome, or whatever the fuck, how you reference it, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. But you're putting another disease into your body that's designed for animals. And you're wondering why nature is putting out more bloody pandemics all the time. It's hit the roof, man. We've hit the roof. What are we going to do? We're going to hold on to what we've built through sickness for the next 30 years and just put ourselves through immense pain and suffering and God knows what else, wars and whatever nature comes up with. Fucking hell, how have we treated the planet? A fucking snowstorm in Texas and nobody really says a word. It's just it's incomprehensible in Texas. It's like that film 2012 or The Day After Tomorrow? We're doing damage, man. Our lives, society, which in the best scenario is but a culmination of thousands of years of ignorance of humanity in its best scenario. And its worst, we've got some sort of conspiracy overriding gods that are controlling the planet, and that's not the most favourable scenario. So the most favourable scenario is we've got here through ignorance. Because I know as soon as you touch on conspiracy theories, you get written off. And a lot of people can't handle truths. But in our unknowingness, and I don't know for certain, I'll admit, in the best scenario could be that we've got here through ignorance. But we've got here. It's not a good place to be. I'm sure anybody that's watching this has grown up in the UK, at least at first. God knows if anybody else watches it thereafter, but you've grown up in the UK, you've grown up somewhere. Well, we're dependent upon this society, man. Do we really need the next 30 years to begin to comprehend the suffering others have had? We need to do something, man. We need to do something. Not queue up for a fucking chemical injection of a disease. In terms of vaccines and antibodies, if we've had the virus and we've self-isolated and we're beginning to produce antibodies, that should be sufficient. That is what a vaccine is. I'll give you a little bit of the disease and you learn to overcome it yourself. Not what's being injected now. That's not a vaccine. That's like, I'm going to cure what you should already have had a natural vaccine of anyway. But that's not the shocking bit, man. When you look at the world as a whole, it's not working. When you look at the top of the world, the people queuing up in the streets for a disease we don't understand it, man. And we're trusting corporations that are in it for their own selves. And that's been proven by law. They're in it for the money first. And if a few side effects have to be suffered, doesn't matter. As long as they can justify it, that's all that's important. That's what's most important by law. They will get away with as much as they can because that's what they have to do by law. It's like, right, guys, we need to make a cure, but we want to make as much money as possible, so we need to make it as cheap as possible to produce. Oh, right, it's got these side effects. Ideally, they wouldn't have it, but we can't make it any cheaper. Right, well, sod it, fuck it. Going at that level. I'm sure the good people that work for companies would love to remove levels of side effects, of pain, make life better for everybody. But law states that we're limited. Law states that. If AstraZeneca, whatever corporations are within that name, I don't know if it's one or two or whatever, and then you've got Oxford, whoever wants to take the credit, and I forget what I was going to say. But we're queuing up for this, man. And we're trusting law. We're trusting corporations that aren't in it for us to give us a chemical, to give us a disease, to give us a cure. Under these limitations. Under these limitations that make the world what it is today. I'm sorry, if you can look at the world as a whole and you can digest it and say, right, I trust in the system that is in it for the best interest of the people, that these corporations are just pure good. And the governments and the system and everything that binds it all together is pure good. And it's just by chance and it's just by mishap that these people are suffering in other places. And my little bubble on top of the world is where everybody's going to be if we just trust. Because the people that are suffering haven't suffered because of what we've got. Can you tell me that, scientist, sitting at home bored and wanting to get the fuck out of your home? Can you tell me that, scientist? Is it designed for humans? Is it going to cure you? Is it your best interest? Or are we just sheep? How many? I understand from a government perspective, when you're dealing with pandemics, you must need to have herd immunity to a certain extent, whereby you're applying a mental assertion to rise above a common cold or a cure, because the mind is a big impact. But what advisory body guides the government to say it's all, let's try and invoke the power of the mind to heal the people? What point is that overlooked? Who advises on that level? Nobody, man. On what basis? Nobody's really believing the science. What level are we living at? Our actions on one level, one hand, are just pure sickness. And on the other hand, it's just incomprehensible. You need a certain amount of the population to believe they're cured. When you believe you're cured, you're cured. I can't believe the government can believe this in this world. They must really believe the science. I must be missing something huge, because all I can see right now is that the governments are really believing the science. So the governments are as fucked as we are, man. If they've got pharmaceutical companies saying, yeah, this will cure. And they're like, oh, okay. That was 85% herd immunity. Okay. It's like, what does that mean? 15% are okay to have the virus and society can function. What does it mean? I'm sorry, I can't get over it. I need to be explained, and this is probably a foresight of mine. It just seems so simple, and I'm so alone, and I don't speak to people, and I haven't asked anybody face to face, but we've all had it for a year. We've pretty much all had it. I'm sure 85% of us have had the coronavirus by now and have had to self-isolate for a week, 2-week period. I can't even remember how long it was. And we've all been at home anyway, pretty much, for the best part of the year. We've begun to develop antibodies. So why are we going to give credit to pharmaceutical companies that they've cured us? I don't get it. Is this a conspiracy by Big Pharma to come in and say, I've got a fantastic idea to make us trillions of pounds. All we need to do is just let them get more ill. We just do our job. They'll get more ill. Nature works how nature works. And soon enough there'll be a pandemic. That is, if you don't want to believe in the darker conspiracies that they half put out and create diseases. I don't give it any thought. But that is a possibility too, because they're in it for the money. And like law says, if they can justify it as a risk, they have to do it. But I don't want to get into that. Worst case scenario is, let's just wait until nature makes a pandemic. And when that comes out, our advisors would advise the government of what we're capable of, and we'll just say to them, X, we have to wait for testing. In that time, the people will develop antibodies anyway, and then we'll release a vaccine. And we'll get all the credit. It's a fantastic idea. The vaccine doesn't even have to work. And, we just put any old shit out there, people get even more ill. But because of the actual first instance of the disease is disappearing because the people are healing themselves, we'll make trillions of pounds, making it look like it was our sickness that we injected into them. Anyway, obviously I've got a very negative viewpoint on this. But it gets away from the first point, and that is, if anybody's watched TV in their life and seen the suffering in the world, admit to yourself you can't connect to that pain, and I can't connect to that pain. Not on the level of what I've experienced in my life. And then see that what we're having to do to ourselves to just perpetuate society that's creating their suffering in the first instance because of the laws that we're trusting in, for people that are in it for money and their own good. That's the picture, that's the scenario. I'm going to get up now and I'm going to carry on like a madman, trying to get my own survival in check. Because I justify my suffering as worse than people's. And I justify my actions that what else am I going to do here? Sit up, pitch a tent, say fuck you all, do whatever you want with me. I'm not moving until you start helping the rest of the world like sane people. It's a bit of a joke, anybody viewing any politician with any ounce of compassion, that a politician has any ounce of compassion in them. They're cold-hearted people, they have to be. How can you be the Prime Minister of a country, how can you be the Queen of a country, the top of the world, and you allow it to perpetuate? That you don't come out and say, you start declaring truths to the people about what's really going on. Even if it's to say, hey guys, I've been in this job for a year now, and I'm looking around, and I was really in it for the best interest of us all. But with all the information I've had declared to me, being in this seat, we don't know the future. We don't know where this is all going, and where it's been at for a good amount of time, it just ain't working. So you can either sack me, or you can allow me to carry on in the job. But if you want me to carry on, I'm going to start caring for you. I'm going to start doing stuff in your best interest, in my best interest, and in the interest of the people that we're fucking over on the other side of the planet. Not just even the other side of the planet, man. Fuck. We make Europe, make this one place rich, give it all the power, give it another thing to look at in way of America, where they do it a bit different, and we can take the piss out of them. They'll be a bit more powerful in one way and we'll be a bit more powerful in another way. And the rest of the world's fucked, who cares? On a sliding scale. My own life is hitting the wall where I'm having to state these blunt truths because I can't take it anymore. And I'm too fickle and I'm too weak, and I'm too ill in my own self to get a tent, sit here, pitch it up and say, fuck every last human alive. We are fucked beyond anything, man. Can we see our own sickness? I'm too weak to do that. I'm too weak as a human being. And I will fight tooth and nail to live a life in this society so I can function, so I can breathe, so I can eat, so I can survive. But in doing that, I'm fucking other people over all the time. And for that reason, I am sick all the time. I am not living in health. I haven't lived in health all my life. It's an impossibility for health. In truth. How many people are born in the UK? How many people are born in America? How many people are born in Europe? We are born ill for our whole lives. And in the way we live our illness, we make the rest of the world ill along with us. How many people have had their second vaccination jab? It's a lovely thing to see when they've been pumping out death toll figures. Oh, there's some hope. For who, man? Do you know how many people I can imagine in this world that's, what, Europe shut down for a year? Oh, fucking hell, things might change. We might be able to have a good life if they shut down long enough. I can't imagine the tears pouring out of people's eyes for the pain they've experienced in their lives because they're seeing us with hope of a fucking vaccine full of sickness. That is the world, man. Now go and book your fucking holiday. Are we ill? And who am I aiming the anger to, man? I'm sitting here as an ill person. You're sitting there as an ill person. We're both sitting here not really being able to comprehend reality. We're powerless in ourselves. We can't do a shit thing in this world. We're going to get up and carry on. Like normal, because we have to breathe, we have to eat, we have to survive. And we're not stupid. We know setting up a fucking pitch tent and saying, fuck you all, I'm not moving until you start changing, is going to do shit all. And I'm not going to start a fucking movement. I'm too petrified. What the fuck is going to happen? I've given up, man. I've sussed it out. We're at fucking interdimensional alien war here. We can't have the technology on the planet that we've got with the secret fucking services and Men in Black in this reference, which in my head exists. With the technology we have, to the technology that's in the mainstream, to the technology that is confiscated left, right and centre. Aliens exist. I don't care if this is a little too much for some people. Write me off. Make this the reason that everything I've said up till now was bullshit. In your illness, write me off. In your illness, write off the person that's fucking just told you more sense than you've heard in your entire fucking life. Write me off. Aliens don't exist. I don't care. I haven't got a point to prove. I'm suffering. I'm suffering the life I was born into. Aliens exist. We've got technology that's mind-blowing out there, that could heal, that could sort the world out. And we're sitting here as we are. Allowing the suffering to continue. There's got to be something bigger. We're at interdimensional war. We're at war with aliens, and we've somehow sussed it that if we're all ignorant to our own suffering and we max out our own suffering, we win the war and we don't suffer. Or the suffering this interdimensional force and alien force are willing to inflict on us is so incomprehensible to ourselves where we find ourselves now, that this is the best scenario. That's where I'm at in my thinking. I've chatted, I need to get on. I've got food to sort out, I've got to breathe, I've got life to live. So I'm going to go.